The Coca Cola versus Pepsi war has raged on between the two multinational beverage corporations for centuries. And so far, their choice of weapons have been strategic marketing campaigns. The two beverage giants have been at each other's throats, and up until now, none of the two have shown any signs of slowing down. Although it appears that the war has been won, the reality of it all might surprise you. In today's video, we'll be looking at the age-long rivalry between Coca Cola and Pepsi. So without further ado, let's dive into the video. Coca Cola, as we all know, has been around for quite some time now. In fact, it's one of the few beverage companies that has managed to stay relevant for more than 100 years. With age comes wisdom, and Coca-Cola's wisdom has been tested over the years, with different beverages all springing up and fighting to get a piece of its market share. But Coca-Cola has not always been at the top. Contrary to popular opinion, the company has gone through some really tough times. Founded in May of 1886, the pioneer Coca-Cola syrup was invented by a pharmacist, John Pemberton. The innovative pharmacist created the syrup by combining the most common ingredients in a way that had never been done before. Pemberton's bookkeeper, Frank Robinson, has been credited with coming up with the signature Coca-Cola name and designing the logo that is still in use today. Sales of Coca-Cola during its first year on the market were less than desirable, as only a few bottles were sold, amounting to a total of $50 for the entire year. This was a significant loss to Pemberton, seeing how it cost over $70 to make and sell the drinks. Taking this into consideration, it's easy to see why the disappointed pharmacist sold the Coca-Cola formula to another pharmacist, Asa Candler, in 1887 for $2,300. Candler ran the Coca-Cola brand with various strategic marketing campaigns, and in a few years, Coca-Cola was the most popular fountain drink in America. At this point, a pharmacist named Calum Bradham was developing his cola-formulated fountain drink, and unlike Coca-Cola, its first year was widely successful. Bradham owned a pharmacy in North Carolina, and like most pharmacists back then, he had a soda fountain and made most of the drinks there himself. Many would say it was Coca-Cola's success in the early 1890s that prompted a similar cola drink to enter the market, but regardless, it had a place in the market and there was no going back. The drink was originally called Brad's Drink and was a mix of cola nuts, sugar, lemon oil, nutmeg, caramel, water, and other ingredients. But as the drink grew popular, its name was eventually changed to Pepsi Cola. Bradham was business inclined, and by 1903, he had trademarked the name Pepsi Cola and was delivering the syrup to pharmacies and soda fountains all over North Carolina. By 1910, Pepsi was already encroaching on Coca-Cola's market share, moving beyond its small consumer market in North Carolina to being sold in over 40 states. Both companies understood the power of branding and powerful targeted marketing campaigns. With competition steadily growing, these campaigns got bigger and set the tone for most of the marketing strategies in use today. Pepsi decided to up its game by not just relying on ads and printing slogans on its bottles. The company began hiring celebrities to endorse the brand. Pepsi tapped into the power of celebrities in 1913 when it hired a famous race car driver, Barney Oldfield, as a spokesperson for Pepsi. Oldfield's famous slogan, "Drink Pepsi Cola. It will satisfy you." It became widely successful as sales of Pepsi moved beyond retail stores and were soon featured in sports arenas and race games. The success of this strategy kick-started Pepsi's time-old fashion of using celebrities for commercials. At that time, it appealed to a lot of consumers and continues to do so even today. Right about now, a Pepsi commercial is one of the most sought-after gigs by most celebrities. Through the celebrity saga, Coca-Cola's marketing campaign still centered around the fact that it was a healthy drink that continued to remain healthy because there were minor health regulations regarding carbonated drinks at the time. This strategy worked well because in the early 20th century, alcoholism was a major problem in the United States, and Coca-Cola offered a healthy, classy alternative to alcohol. But the company's next campaign shook the foundation of advertising and shaped modern culture for Christmas and kids worldwide. The Coca Cola brand's illustration of a big, festive, jolly old man adorned in red and white bringing presents for children set in the tone for Santa Claus as we know him today. Santa Claus, or St. Nicholas as he was called back then, was given his red and white image due to Coca-Cola's marketing campaign, and this cemented the company's place at Christmas tables all over the world for years to come. The Coca-Cola Company also launched an experimental package in the form of a box containing 6 bottles of Coke that was called a six-pack. And while this was just an experimental packaging system, it became widely popular as even breweries began selling 6-pack beer in bottles as well as in tin cans. During this period, Pepsi Cola had gone through some rough times after it gambled on its sugar supply, which was greatly affected by World War I. The company was sold off to numerous investors and companies over the years. At some point, it was even offered up for sale to Coca-Cola, but the company declined to place a bid. New ownership and management of Pepsi finally pulled it out of the slumps by reinventing the Pepsi formula and selling at reduced prices. PepsiCo's president at the time, Charles Guth, decided to sell the drinks in 12-ounce bottles for just 5 cents. This marketing technique aimed to brand Pepsi as a more-for-less drink, and it proved successful as Pepsi more than doubled its sales in the 1930s, rising back to its place at the top of the soda market. Pepsi's twice as much for a nickel became widely successful all over the country and was tagged as one of the most effective marketing campaigns of the early 20th century. Notwithstanding Pepsi's reinvented image and rise from near bankruptcy, Coca-Cola continued to push its reaches far beyond the shores of the United States. That is until later in the century when they learned they weren't so untouchable after all. Pepsi was making a steady comeback in the market and found a way to boost its market share beyond the United States. During World War II, Pepsi made sure to make its soda the go-to drink for the United States Army and successfully followed the troops to Asia and Europe, where they established factories even after the war ended. In the early 1960s, years after the war ended, Pepsi established itself as the drink for the young in the early 60s, and a new ad campaign called The Pepsi Generation successfully pulled it off with the introduction of the company's first diet soda. The Pepsi Company continued to grow and eventually acquired Mountain Dew as well as Frito-Lay, the snack company. Coca-Cola was still unfazed by Pepsi's continuous rise in the market, and they kept their sights set on the older, more refined generation as opposed to Pepsi. With the disappearance of soda fountains and the emergence of bottled soda drinks, Coca-Cola was well positioned to ride this change as they were one of the only soda companies that made bottled drinks. This new bottled soda trend would eventually lead to the company making the iconically shaped Coca-Cola bottles, which have undergone several changes over the years. Sadly, even iconic bottles couldn't keep Pepsi from zoning in on Coca-Cola's enormous market share. By the 70s, the once near bankrupt company threatened to displace Coca-Cola as the #1 soda brand in the United States. Pepsi even went as far as becoming the first ever U.S. product to be made and sold in the Soviet Union, something Coca-Cola couldn't achieve until much later in the century. A pivotal point in both companies' history was the start of the Pepsi Challenge, a series of in-store blind tastings that served to prove which brand of cola was better. It was originally assumed that since Coca-Cola was more successful and sold more bottles than Pepsi, well, that it must taste better. But that appeared not to be the case. The Pepsi Challenge found that in a blind taste test, people preferred the taste of Pepsi, which is a tad bit sweeter to that of Coca-Cola. The discovery was obviously a rude shock for Coca-Cola, and it was what drove the company to make a drastic move that many would describe as stupid for years to come. In April of 1985, Coca-Cola announced they were changing their original formula to a new, improved version called New Coke, and effectively stopped production of the original formula. New Coke was received with poor feedback from consumers, and the backlash was like nothing the company had ever experienced. Over 40,000 letters from consumers calling for the return of the original formula were sent to the company's headquarters in Atlanta. In under 3 months of releasing New Coke, The previous former was returned and called Coca-Cola Classic. Pepsi, of course, capitalized on this flop in Coca-Cola's marketing history by running a commercial that featured a girl upset about new Coke, and afterwards she tasted her first Pepsi to much delight. The commercial dubbed Pepsi as the choice of the new generation, which held some truths as Pepsi's market share rose while Coca-Cola declined. The new Coke debacle was a wake-up call for Coca-Cola to the realities of Pepsi's claim to the market, and it marked the start of what was termed the Cola Wars. Moving on, both companies didn't just run independent campaigns aimed at generating sales. Instead, they began targeting their competitors as well. Pepsi began one of the biggest marketing campaigns in the Cola Wars with Pepsi Stuff in the 90s. The campaign used the slogan, "Drink Pepsi, get stuff," which meant consumers could collect points to redeem free prizes and merchandise with enough Pepsi bottle caps, cups, and packages. Coca-Cola retaliated with their very own Coke Rewards, which was modeled the same way Pepsi Stuff was. Coke Rewards, which took off in 2005, gave points that could be redeemed for prizes and free drinks. But Pepsi took it further by partnering with Amazon and enabling consumers to purchase things online with their Pepsi points. Both companies have always been at the top two spots in the market, with Coca-Cola in the number 1 and Pepsi following closely in number 2. That was until 2010. In 2010, Coca-Cola's Diet Coke topped Pepsi in sales, giving Coca-Cola the number 1 and 2 spots in the market and pushing Pepsi down to number 3. Pepsi brought the campaign war to Coca-Cola's home turf with the Super Bowl hosted 53 in Atlanta, Georgia, which happens to be the location of Coca-Cola headquarters. Pepsi, which was a major sponsor of the Super Bowl, had superior campaign rights during the game, and they milked every second of it to taunt Coca-Cola by running ads like, "Hey Atlanta, thanks for hosting, we'll bring the drinks," and "Look who's in town for Super Bowl 53," and "Pepsi in Atlanta, how refreshing." Coca-Cola also ran ads during the game, but it was obvious who had the upper hand. Both companies have established their dominance in the industry, with Coca-Cola having 44.9% market share and PepsiCo around 25.9% market share as of 2020. Both companies have impacted each other's sales using targeted campaigns in one way or another, but that's actually made them some of the best marketers in business history. Pepsi currently has a market cap of $229.9 billion, while Coca-Cola boasts $231.4 billion, noting about a $1.5 billion lead over Pepsi. Each business has different models, and despite the dreaded Cola Wars, which are still ongoing, they've established themselves as important rivals, and we, the consumers, we simply can't get enough. Thanks for watching, and don't forget subscribe and activate those notifications for more inspiring videos. Cheers!